I've actually finished the redesign of the other three main characters, but I'll have to say that for the next video in this series. So I'm back. I'm sorry this took more than a month to come out. I've been absolutely swamped with everything. Literally for the entire month of October, I had to go away for my grandfather's big birthday thing, and he lives like 4 hours away. I was doing math tests that I had an hour and it was 4 hours away. I did not pass that, and I've gotten sick like 15 times, and I'm so tired of being so sick all the time to think. Point is that I was very swamped with everything. But now that everything's wrapping up, I have a few minutes here and there that I've been working on this project, hence why it's taken me over a month. But anyway, this is a continuation from the first video where I redesigned my first ever comic book characters, and this is the same. It's the same characters, it's just the other ones I didn't have time to do. If you haven't watched the first video, I'd highly recommend watching it before you watch this one, just because I mention a few things and names that if you haven't watched the first one, you won't know who they are. But anyway, enough rambling, and let's actually get on to the video that you're here to watch. Okay, thank you. Roll the tape. Out of all the characters in Kana, I'd have to say that this guy probably went through the biggest changes to everything. His design, his backstory, who he is. Honestly, he's just a new character at this point. Essentially, I just scrapped his old design and everything his old self represented, and I just made a new character. And that's this guy. So you're probably thinking, who is this guy then? Well, this guy was Cuan, the original wizard guy that tells Kana about the prophecy. Obviously, he looks a little different than how he did before. I made this change mostly because Cuan, even in the original story, was nothing. He wasn't a character. You'll notice a trend through all these characters is that they weren't characters. They were placeholders. They were archetypes. They weren't actual characters in their own right with stories and personality. And Cuan wasn't any different. He was literally just the old wizard archetype who would teach them magic and be a mentor figure. But he never really was. Outside of kind of the main story, he just kind of disappeared. He was just there. He wasn't really a part of the crew or anything that kind of pushed the narrative further. Of the small kind of role he had in the main gang was that he was supposed to be the knowledge keeper. He was the one that knew about magic. And now that I've remade the series, that role has kind of been filled by Lycos. So he doesn't have that one personality trait that I gave him. So what do I do? Well, it was very simple, and by very simple, I mean it took me forever to think of what he actually should be, and then I changed it about 12 times, and then finally came to what he is now. I would like to introduce you to the new and improved wizard guy, who's not actually a wizard anymore. He is a bard, and his name is Ulmug. Ulmug is a half-orc bard character, well, kind of bard. At first I was playing with the idea that he was a vampire, but I think his story can still work with if he was a warlock. Now if you don't know anything about D&D, a warlock essentially is a magic user who got their magic because they sold their soul to the devil, a higher power of some kind. And Ulmug is no different. He sold his soul to something to save him. I think you can kind of notice that he doesn't really have both of his arms, and that is for a reason. For his backstory, I'm kind of focusing on the stereotype of the orc being involved in war and being very vicious. And so in the story, Ulmug is the son of two great warriors who have trained him since birth to fight. Ulmug himself was never super into battle or anything like that, but he just did it because that was what he grew up with. He grew up fighting and waging war against people. He killed his first person at age 15. But battle is not really his strong suit, honestly. He might be a great warrior, but he's not the best, nowhere near his parents. Even so, unfortunately for him, he didn't really get a chance of what he wanted to do. He never really got a choice of what he was supposed to do. He just was going to take over from their empire, from their reign of terror. One day, during the Great War of the Gulch, both factions of the Orcish army were waging war against each other. It was a bloody, violent battle, and Ulmug, being the next in line, was ahead and the leader of this battalion. As the battle raged on, it was very clear to everyone involved that they would not win this, and even Ulmug himself was struck almost dead, losing his arm in the process. As he clung to life, cursing everything and everyone in his path, barely holding on, he was visited by a strange creature. Well, not creature, a deity of some kind, an unrecognizable entity of pure power. This mysterious entity, who Ulmug swears he's seen before, gave him an offer that he really couldn't refuse. that he would give him his soul, and in return, he would save him from death and allow Ulmug to live a life of his own choosing, with the power bestowed upon him by this entity. As Ulmug's life faded behind his eyes and he slowly lost consciousness, he took the deal to save himself, to finally be free. And so, as promised, the deity gifted him with life and not death, it saved him. It saved him, and also gifted him some of his powers in the way that a warlock would. And he faked his death so that no one would come looking for him, so that he would finally be left alone to do what he wanted. And what he wanted was to kind of be like a snake oil salesman. He was basically like a magic scam artist. Look, I don't know. It really fits with his character. I'm talking he would do a minor illusion in front of people whilst also mage handing their pockets to grab out of the gold and rob them, essentially. And this life sounds great. I mean, going to a different town every other week, mostly because he got kicked out for robbing people, but traveling around places he had never seen before, experiencing fun things, living a life of fantasy and just drinking and fun sounded amazing to him, until his patron, the deity who bestowed his powers to him, told him that he had one mission. He could continue his life, but he needed to complete one mission for this deity. What was the mission, you may say? Well, the one thing the deity wanted the most was to be able to harness the power of the sun itself. And the last thing to round out this speed paint is that I'm going to design a few outfits for him. You've seen it on screen. I'm up to the water one right now. I kind of struggled with the pants for this one. I figured it out. But anyway, that was Ulmug, so let's go to the next character.
Why not steal anything that is not nailed down? That is sure to impress your hosts. Next question. I protect the realm I love from trouble, and I can already see you are eager to prove yourself.
There seems to be a bit of a theme going on where every single character in this video has been completely demolished and recreated from scratch. This character was previously named Shiza, and she was supposed to be the older sister of Amazde, basically the first connection we have to understanding Amazde's past. So who was she other than just her sister? What was her personality? What was her character essentially? She didn't have one. To speed things up and not spiel on the same thing I've done for every single one of these characters, she didn't have a personality, she didn't have a story, she was just a placeholder. So when redesigning this character, it was really like writing one from scratch, where I could have changed and manipulated some parts of stories for other characters. This character specifically, I had to just rewrite an entire arc and everything for them. Meet the newest iteration of this character, whose name is Fran Ivory. Fran is a tiefling cleric. I originally was going to have them as a druid because of nature and their connection to it, but I realized having a guy that turns into a wolf and a druid who turns into animals, it kind of feels like it's doubling up, so a cleric is better. Plus, I need a healer in the party. And so, Fran was made. I definitely knew I wanted her to be of this naturey aspect of the very like trees and flowers, just because none of the other characters kind of have that vibe. I also made her a tiefling because I didn't really have a tiefling character, and I feel like that was a waste. I had so many very humanoid looking characters, so it made sense to change one of them to a half-orc and one into a tiefling. It just feels very iconic and very different. Fran's new story, well, Fran's story now is basically stolen from my friend's D&D character, Cass. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry. Basically, Fran is from the Forest Kingdom, a kingdom that values nature and living amongst it as one of the people instead of demolishing it and building her own space. Long ago, when Fran was growing up, the kingdom was thriving, not just because of the plants, but also just the people there. It was a very peaceful place where one could just exist and just be happy. They didn't really wage war or really have conflicts. But as Fran grew older, a decay began to spread across the kingdom, causing plants to die and famines to spread. Animals became corrupted, sick, and deformed. Not many of the residents knew why this was happening. All they knew was that their plants, their livelihood was dying. So a lot of them decided to leave. So soon, the once vibrant, prosperous place had basically turned into a ghost town. Only very few residents remain, living on the outskirts of the forest really, and just barely inside, with a large chunk of it being uninhabitable. And they called that space the Land of the Rot. So Fran made it her mission, as a cleric herself, to find the source of this decay, this disease, and to finally fix it, to revert the Land of Rot back to its former glory, and to save the forest, her home. But so far, nothing has worked. That is, until one day, a group of strangers wanders into the rot zone by accident. They get attacked, and Fran is forced to save them. and heal them. One of the strangers is very grateful for this and offers them something that they wanted their whole life. They said that they have the potential for a cure that could fix anything, potentially save the forest. No one to Fran themselves, what is their personality? What's kind of their whole deal? In my mind, she fits the typical medic healer kind of personality. She's calm and compassionate, kind, sweet, basically just a loving person. But she's also not afraid to throw down if you're being disrespectful or rude. She will protect those that she loves, and she's not afraid of that. I also wanted her to be more of a fashionista. You can see these outfits currently that they're very different from the rest of the groups. I wanted her style to very much be she adapts to the environment around her. Again, because she's kind of involved with the environment and her whole thing is the environment, I wanted the environment to shape her. So in the cold, she's still fashionable, but it's very clearly reminiscent of nature and snowflakes. I also decided that I wanted her to be quite reserved with her clothing. She doesn't like to show too much skin. Obviously, in some of these outfits, she does show a bit more skin, but it's more relevant. In her like swimming outfit, she's more clothed than bikini style. I feel like that just kind of fits her personality. She's not reserved like a prude. She just likes to cover up more, and she likes the style of a lot of things that are longer. This is kind of a nice connection between her and Lycos, because Lycos also likes to cover himself up, but it's for very different reasons. Where Lycos likes to cover up because he's ashamed of his nature and his natural wolfy body, Fran just likes to cover up because she just likes to cover up. She is engrossed in nature. She has no shame about it. It's a personal choice. It is a choice of freedom rather than that of shame. When it comes to those two characters specifically, I really want them to mirror each other and kind of fight back against each other for no obvious reason. Also, if you're wondering why my voice is kind of nasally, it's because I'm sick, okay? Leave me alone. So basically that's Fran's character all done. I really like the changes I've done with her, and on to the next one.
I want to read a certain book, but it's out of print. Where do you suppose I could find a copy? I may have stopped being a doormat for adults, but people are still calling me a teacher's pet.
Before I begin, I would just like to preface, we have all been 14 once. We've all thought that a guy with piercings and black hair was cool and edgy, okay? I don't want to hear nothing, okay? Yes, a guy with so much trauma is probably not the best well-rounded character, but he was everything to 14-year-old me. And so, because of this, I made this character. What was his original name? It doesn't matter, because his new name is Cuan. So who was Cuan in this story? Well, it's very simple. Well, not simple, but it wasn't as complex. It had no depth. Cuan is Lycos's twin brother, but not just his twin brother. No. It was his secret twin brother who was actually a werewolf. Because guess what? Lycos was also a werewolf. What? That's crazy. Yeah, it was supposed to be this big reveal that Lycos was actually a werewolf, but I didn't do anything with that, and I never made him like transform or anything. So this guy's Cuan's inclusion was kind of just to have another main character who was kind of the edgy Lycos. Now that Lycos is an actual character in the story with his own character arc and flaws, it makes sense for Cuan to kind of change and morph around that, still keeping kind of his core aspect, but just obviously using it to improve both of their stories. But enough about Lycos for now. Let's talk more about Cuan himself. Cuan and Lycos were both born into the lycanthrope clan of the Dark Wolves. That doesn't mean that they were bad, they just were Dark Wolves because they were quite literally dark wolves, they had dark fur. Anyway, they were both born into this clan and they were raised to be a part of them in nature, to embrace their wolfy side. We've explained this all in Lycos' story. However, one day, as discussed, a group of people came and raided the werewolf clan. They captured and stole several of the children, including Lycos, but not Cuan. Because of this, Cuan grew up without his brother, and he grew up actually within his people. He grew up with his culture and in nature, embracing his lycanthrope side. This is why you can see Cuan is very free with his clothing. He's very much the opposite of Lycos, who likes to be very restrictive with his clothing and cover up, and Cuan has that more feral kind of look. But that isn't everything, because Cuan and Lycos' parents weren't just other Wolven clan members. They were the head wolves of the clan, making Cuan essentially the prince of the clan. Although his parents and him himself tried to look for Lycos for many years, at one point they kind of just had to give up the search, focusing all their effort into making sure that Lycos could be the next leader of the pack. Still mourning their son, but putting their priorities in the right spot. Because of this, a lot of weight and past traumas kind of held on to Cuan, so he kind of became cold, distant, aggressive. He became very wolf-like, so he put up walls around himself. He didn't really let anyone in. That was until one day. A neighboring lycanthrope had visited their clan. He was injured and he was looking for some sort of rescue and refuge just along his way. Considering that Cuan was training to be the next leader of the wolves, he took it upon himself to kind of be the one to welcome this guy in. And to make a long story short, they may or may not have ended up as more than just friends, if you catch my drift. This was the love of Cuan's life. He finally found someone who understood him and didn't try to make him something he wasn't. He was just unapologetically himself, and he finally felt loved because of it. However, in my stories, true love tends to not be as long-lasting as it probably should be. Cuan's mate was actually a wolf from a neighboring rival clan, the one that their clan had been at war with forever, a silver wolf clan. Cuan knew this. I mean, it was pretty obvious. The wolf was a silver wolf, so it wouldn't really make sense if they weren't. But anyway, he knew from the beginning, and he thought that he could keep the wolf safe. At worst case, they could run away together, be together. Think of very Romeo and Juliet vibes. However, the leader of the silver wolves was able to track this traitor in his mind down, and he killed him. Cuan was justifiably devastated. He raged so much he didn't know what to do with his anger, and so instead, like an injured wolf would, he went and he defeated the leader of the silver wolves himself. It caused a huge ruckus and it was very bad for his people. But Cuan had finally gotten justice for the love of his life. Didn't bring him back, but it felt right at the moment. In that moment, he skinned the leader, wearing his coat as kind of a symbol of dominance, as you can see in his art. And around his neck is a single claw, taken from the love of his life, as a way of memory, essentially. Now, obviously, killing the leader of the Silver Eyes Pack was not going to go down well with them or his own people. The war that was stirring up between them was more of a festering grudge. This was now a call to war. Cuan, in this one instant, had essentially started a war. Because of this, he was ousted from his community by his own father. He was basically kicked out and was like, "You've betrayed our people." Cuan wanted to fight alongside his family in this upcoming war. It was his own battle as well. He started it. Because he was ousted, he wasn't allowed to. He knew he had to do something in order to be welcomed back into the clan. But what could he do? And that's when he remembered. What if he was able to bring back someone who was lost forever, like his twin brother?
I failed you. I'm not. Please leave while you still can. You're a fake. You don't even care, do you? You know you can't really help people. No, please stop.
So yeah, that's it. Well, like, that's not it, as in that's everyone from the universe. That's it for this video. If you guys like it and want to hear more about this universe, I could definitely do some more videos where I talk about the other characters, like the side characters I didn't really get time to talk about. But for now, I think my next video will be on something other than my own character's universe. I do have something planned. Hopefully it turns out good. Anyway, I've been Moss, you've been you, and hopefully I will see you again soon and not in another month's time. Bye.
I see.